What's up NBA fans, Dom2K on the mic, and today I'm doing a video about the Cavaliers and their upcoming season. Of course, they were super duper active this summer, they made a lot of moves, and when they signed Dwayne Wade, I didn't immediately make a video about it because he's 35 years old and I don't think anybody thinks it's as significant as it would have been if it was a couple of years ago. However, I do have plenty to say about the Cavaliers and how I think things are going to play out, so that's what today's video is going to be about. And if by any chance you have any plans to see the Cavaliers play this season, I think the SeatGeek app is your best choice. The app provides you with the easiest way to buy tickets for almost any kind of event, which would be mostly sports related for you guys. The app pulls tickets from all over the web and has them in one place to make purchasing one for your event really easy, and it also assures you'll be getting the best value for your ticket. While looking for the tickets, each one is ranked with a score from 1 to 100 that lets you know if you're getting a good deal or not for your purchase. On top of that, the app also provides you with a detailed view of what you would see from your seat before you even get there, which is extremely helpful. If you're interested in getting the app, the links will be in both the comment section and highlighted in the description. If you're still on the fence, consider using my promo code DOM2K to get $20 off your first purchase. This is the app I used when I went to the Warriors and Magic game last season, and it made the whole process really simple, so I definitely recommend it for you. So let's go ahead and talk about this Cavaliers team, because a lot of their moves is really what contributed to this being the craziest offseason that we've had since LeBron James went to the Miami Heat. They got to the NBA Finals relatively easily last playoffs because in the East there just wasn't that much competition. Then they played the Warriors and they almost got swept. A lot of us knew that the Golden State Warriors were going to make quick work of them because they simply didn't play the defense to be able to keep up with them. Golden State plays blazing offense and the Cavaliers had 22nd ranked defense, so it was a foregone conclusion what happened. And for that reason, when you take a bit of a deeper look at who the Cavaliers actually got this season, you might start to question if, it was in line with what they actually needed to win an NBA championship. I don't think anyone doubts that they're a much better team because they are way deeper and now they have a bench, but 3 of their 4 key additions don't play that good at defense. You got Derrick Rose, Isaiah Thomas, Dwayne Wade, and Jay Crowder, and out of those 4, only Jay Crowder is really known for his defense. Isaiah Thomas and Derrick Rose are typically known as defensive liabilities, and Wade is 35 years old now and he's not as great as a defender as he once was. So while those names are definitely going to help with things like scoring and playmaking ability and making the team deeper, at the same time, a lot of us feel like if we get a Cavaliers and Warriors part 4, we're going to have the same problem that we had last year where they simply can't defend those guys. Another question I have about this roster is the actual lineup that they're going to be putting out on the floor. So right now we know whatever happened to Isaiah Thomas's hip is actually going to keep him out until around January or February, which means they're going to play November, December, and a little bit of October without him in the starting lineup. It's going to be Derrick Rose starting at the point guard position. And so that brings up questions. That brings up a couple of questions actually, but the first is, it looks like the plan is to start Derrick Rose at the point guard position, and from everything we've heard it sounds like Dwayne Wade is going to be starting at the 2. But the whole thing is, when you have LeBron James on the floor, if you look at his rosters ever since he's been winning, it's always been about floor spacing. There's always a lot of shooters on the floor because LeBron himself is not that great a shooter. It's not that you ever want to leave him wide open, but it's more like if you have a choice between him shooting the ball and driving to the rim for a foul or a bucket, you would much rather have him shoot it. And the thing with this Cavaliers team the past few years is they could really shoot. You had Kyrie Irving, who was a sniper, you had J.R. Smith, who was streaky, but he was still a shooter and you didn't want to leave him open, and that turns into Derrick Rose and Dwayne Wade now, who are not known for their perimeter shot. As a matter of fact, Derrick Rose, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would recommend playing off of him these days because you want him to shoot instead of getting to the rim. He's still really good at getting to the rim, but you really want him to shoot. And Dwayne Wade, yeah, when the playoffs come around, for some reason that 3-point percentage does go up, but for an entire season, that's still not that good for floor spacing to have him and Rose out there with LeBron James. So I'm interested to see if they go forward with this because a lot of people feel like J.R. Smith is better at the bench at this point in his career because he's so streaky that it might just be better for him to come off the second unit. But then what are the benefits of having Dwayne Wade come with the second unit? Because we know that the Cavaliers, they've been notorious for falling apart when LeBron James is off the floor, and Dwayne Wade is still a good player. So if you're bringing him off the bench at 35 years old, he doesn't have to play as many minutes and he can make plays when LeBron is not on the floor, so that could be beneficial. However, I'm going to go ahead and say right off the bat, I don't see that happening for a couple of reasons. One, LeBron James and Dwayne Wade have great chemistry, so I'm sure they want to be in the lineup together, and I did hear Dwayne Wade's interview about coming off the bench because he was asked about it, and he didn't say no to it, but he also didn't sound like he wanted to do it, so I don't think this is really going to happen. The next question I have is, what happens when Isaiah Thomas comes back? Because we all know he was right at 30 points a game last season. I believe he was an MVP candidate last season, and now he's not slated to come back until January, and Derrick Rose is a starting level point guard. So I'm interested to see what happens, because when you put Isaiah, of course the idea was that when they traded Isaiah for Kyrie, that Isaiah was going to be the starting point guard. But being that the month is going to be around January or February when he comes back, and the playoffs are going to start in April, you start to wonder, are they just going to hand Isaiah Thomas the keys to the offense when he hasn't played with these guys? He's not going to have great chemistry with these guys, and we don't know how good he's going to be coming back from that hip injury. So does he ever end up starting for this Cavaliers team, or does Isaiah Thomas become a permanent six man? Another thing I'm looking at is, this looks like an ego problem, because we know what Isaiah thinks of himself. He's already said that he's looking forward to coming back and dropping 30 points next to LeBron, and we know for a fact that Isaiah Thomas does not see himself as a bench player. He doesn't see himself as a six man. So, you know, of course the Cavaliers, I think right off the bat he's not going to start. We know that for a fact. He's going to have to get acclimated. But does he ever actually become the starting point guard if Derrick Rose is already having a good season? Do you cap that and put Derrick Rose on the bench now? And is Derrick Rose going to be happy with the bench position? Because we know he still thinks he's good too. So it raises a lot of questions in that point guard position. I don't think there's a chance in hell Isaiah Thomas is going to accept a permanent bench position, but could you imagine him as a six man? That would actually be great for the Cavaliers, because let's say Derrick Rose is playing good and now you have Isaiah leading the second unit. Now you really never have a problem of LeBron James going off the floor and the Cavaliers just completely losing their luster, because I think we all know that Isaiah Thomas is perfectly capable of leading a team, as he just led the Celtics to the best record in the Eastern Conference. So that might be something the Cavaliers look at, and I'm going to be interested to see how they handle it. Another thing I wanted to take some time and talk about is Kevin Love at the center position, because Tyronn Lue did say that that's a possibility. Maybe Tristan Thompson goes to the bench, you slide Kevin Love over to the 5, which means either LeBron James or Jay Crowder is going to be playing the 4. Now, I don't think there's a question, this is probably the Cavaliers' best offensive lineup, and this goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the spacing, because LeBron James is most effective and his teams are the best when he has spacing. The Miami teams had spacing, the Cavaliers or the Past have had spacing. So if they do this, then I guess this is just their offensive / small ball lineup, because when Isaiah Thomas is healthy, let's just say he does start and the Cavaliers don't get creative, then you're going to have Thomas, Wade, LeBron James, Crowder, and Kevin Love all on the floor. Now, that still doesn't do much for them in the series we all think is going to happen with Cavaliers and Warriors Part 4, because your only defenders on the floor at that point are going to be LeBron James and Jay Crowder. But then again, there's just really no good options against this Golden State team, and the Cavaliers just don't have that many defensive guys on the roster in general, so I guess it's kind of like a rock and a hard place. However, putting Tristan Thompson on the bench, yeah, it bolsters the bench a little bit, but it also takes your only rim protection out of that starting lineup, and it puts Kevin Love at center, who's not a good defender. So I'm going to be interested to see if they end up rolling with this. And finally, let's talk about the new look Cavaliers in relation to the Golden State Warriors, because be real, that's what everybody wants to know. The Warriors lost to the Cavaliers and they went out and added Kevin Durant. The Cavaliers lost to the Warriors and they went and got an entire new bench. I do applaud the Cavaliers front office here, because although they didn't really get the defensive players I think they needed, they did a lot more than I thought they were capable of. Because if you remember some of my videos from when they first lost to the Warriors, I was saying I think it's more than likely that LeBron leaves now, because I didn't know what they could do with that roster to get them to be able to compete with the Warriors. And going and getting the bench was kind of important, because I think we saw in the NBA Finals and we saw every time LeBron James sat out, the Cavaliers would just completely fall apart. And so no matter what they do with Isaiah Thomas and Derrick Rose, they're going to have 3 players who were just starting for other teams on their bench now. They have 3 starting players on their bench. So I put out a tweet a couple of days ago when Dwayne Wade signed with the Cavaliers, and I basically listed their whole roster from top to bottom, and I was like, this has to be enough to be able to compete with the Warriors. It actually got picked up, a lot of people saw it, a lot of people answered to it, and the response to it was actually overwhelmingly negative, because I think there was a lot of people who thought I was trying to say the Cavaliers can beat the Warriors now, and I want to go ahead and correct that wrong, because I wasn't going to answer 100 tweets and tell everyone the same thing. No, I'm not saying I think the Cavaliers can beat the Warriors, and I don't think they're going to beat the Warriors. I said I think they're deep enough to compete with the Warriors now. They didn't add the players to defend Golden State, and that's the specific reason I don't think they're going to be able to actually beat them. However, they did get really deep, and deep enough to the point where you have to be able to say it matters that they added Derrick Rose and Dwayne Wade, who both just average 18 points a game. And yes, they're both shells of their former self, but they're still good players. They can still make plays, and the fact that one of them, at least one of them, is going to be coming off the bench is kind of significant. They got Jay Crowder, who's a 3-and-D guy. They got Isaiah Thomas, who is basically going to be able to do the same thing as Kyrie Kyrie Irving, assuming he's healthy. And so you've got to be able to look at it and say, yeah, the Cavaliers aren't going to be able to defend them, but somebody has to defend the Cavaliers too. And that's the reason you don't hear me talking much about the Celtics in relation to the Cavs, because I love that we got Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, but I don't think the Celtics are good enough to beat a team that has 3 All-Stars on it still and is basically 10 players deep. That's what you're looking at with Cleveland right now. And so Cleveland isn't going to be defending Golden State, but as opposed to where in the NBA Finals last year you had Darren Williams running the second unit and them, the team just looking completely lost without LeBron, there's guys out there that can do stuff now whenever LeBron James sits on the bench. That's going to make a difference. And we also do a lot of talking about the health of Dwayne Wade and Derrick Rose, and with Rose, his stuff is more spontaneous, so with his knees you just never know, just he's playing and he's doing well, and then one day you hear he has a torn meniscus and you don't know how it happened or where it happened, so that's unpredictable if he's going to get hurt or not. But I think for a 35-year-old Dwayne Wade who just has sore knees sometimes, it definitely helps that he's playing on a super deep roster where he doesn't have to do everything, he's not going to be the main focus, and he's not going to have to bring it every night with a ton of minutes, so I think someone like him, this really benefits. And so I don't think they're going to beat the Golden State Warriors this year, should that be the NBA Finals, but I do think that they have a better chance this year to compete with him than they did last year, because last year, if you go back and watch my Western Conference Finals prediction on that video where a lot of people accused me of being a Warriors dick rider and whatever because I said they were going to win in 5 games, which they actually did, that's because I looked at it and said the Cavaliers team, the second unit, isn't that great, they don't play great defense, and I don't think they're going to beat them. This year, one of those things has changed. I think their second unit should be really good, and health permitting, I think they can give Golden State a better fight. And that kind of sucks because this is the only time in NBA history where I can remember that NBA Finals runner-up could have 3 players that were just starting now on their bench and come back the next year and still not be favorites. This is one of the only times. The NBA is definitely better this season. There were a lot of moves. The Western Conference is way better, and I would be super surprised if Golden State ran off another 16-1 record, but as far as Cleveland and Golden State, still got Golden State in that one. So those are all my thoughts on the Cavaliers this season. That's what I think about their moves and how they might possibly fit together. And now I want to hear what you think about them. Make sure you leave your comment in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications on my videos. I'm Dom2K, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.